Hey guys, welcome back. Kamina the coach here. It has been months since I have done a video, and I think it's because I've watched other creators fizzle out, especially adoptee creators, autistic creators. And so welcome back if you're returning, and if you're new here, my name is Kamina the coach. I've been working and living abroad forever. I'm now doing my best to become an immigrant and eventually a citizen here in Mexico. Um, a lot of videos on my channel are about the fact or how to work and live abroad. Lots about the fact that I'm adopted, transracial adoptee, late discovery adoptee. Lots of my videos are about that. And here recently, the discovery that I'm AuDHD. You'll find a few videos about that because there's just not that much information online about that. And so I've watched a lot of ADHD, autistic creators fizzle out, and a lot of adoptee creators fizzle out because there's just not enough research to continue to give actual factual information. So they just end up reacting to pop culture stuff, and I'm not terribly. I haven't owned a TV or really listened to mainstream music since 2008. So unless I'm really taking in new information that I can process and re-disseminate in a valuable way, I don't see a purpose in making a video. My channel's not monetized, so I'm really and truly just making these videos to try to leave a mark, a valuable mark, to try to leave the world better than it was when I got here. So this video is prompted by a documentary that I watched, and I'm hesitant to talk about it because it was so sensationalized, and because it was so sensationalized, what the documentary was about, that it has kind of ended up downplaying the real issue. And the real issue is violence against women. And I don't know, I may at some point in this video share the story because it actually, as I was watching, gave me nightmares. It brought up a lot of old things for me. But people were so caught up in the sensation. I guess I have to share it because there are things that I want to say about it. So I think it's called Lorena. It's about Lorena and John Bobbitt and her cutting off his member. And so first of all, before I even get started with the violence, it really is disappointing to me at how outraged all these men were at this, even though there are women, young girls having their genitals mutilated every single day. Even in the United States, even in the UK, these girls are brought by their families and expected to uphold their traditions. And none of these men are outraged about that. So I want to start by saying that. So that's why I have to share what brought all this on. And I want to share my story. And I think when I was going through my reunion journey, I shared as much of my life story as I could remember in 2-part videos. If you're curious about that, you can go search through the channel to locate those. So I shared as much of my life story as I possibly could. And so I glazed over what I'm going to focus on here, but I really want to focus on it in this video. And I think that the reason why I want to focus on it in this video is because where Lorena was able to find peace is in sharing her story and going to battered women and children's shelters and helping these women understand that they're not alone and that there's hope on the other side. So even though it has been many years since I escaped that situation, it is something that still occasionally haunts me. Like I said, I had nightmares. I guard my energy pretty well, and I don't usually watch stuff or listen to stuff or read stuff that is possibly going to disturb my peace. But after my intense healing journey, I do feel a bit stronger, but I do find that I need to be a little more cautious than I have been. Having said all that, we'll launch into my story. There's nothing about me that makes me more special or more intelligent or more deserving than anyone else. The fact that I escaped my situation, I think, is not doesn't speak to anything about how special I am, just how lucky I was. So I got married. So I've been married twice. It feels like I almost married the same man. They're very different looking men, but both electricians, both very, very electrician journeymen, both full-blooded black from black families, very, very intelligent men. The first one, very abusive in neglect and words. And that was, I don't want to downplay that abuse. I am going to title this video to do something with autism, ADHD, and the fact that I'm adopted. And the way that I think that this ties in, and the way that I know that this ties in, is that people who have had trauma, had early childhood trauma, are something like 75-80% more likely to have trauma as an adult. And I don't remember why those statistics are facts, but those of us who are more sensitive, those of us who are different from birth, of no control of our own, these situations that happen when we're young affect us more deeply than it does a lot of other people. And for adoptees, having been taken away from our mothers at birth, that trauma that we can't even really name is something that we carry with us forever, which is why we are a very high risk population. And then never mind the fact that I'm also a woman, that I'm also black. So I don't want to downplay emotional and verbal abuse, because my first husband was emotionally and verbally abusive. He was only physical with me one time. And I was eventually able to, I was so young. My first marriage, I suppose I should go over both of them, but I don't want to make this video. I'm already 7 minutes in. I really want to talk about the physical abuse. So I'm going to skip over a lot of the first one, and I'm sorry for that, but I really want to talk about the more abusive, the physically abusive relationship. So I was 19 when I married the first guy. I hadn't known him very long, and we were never together very long because we shouldn't have been together. He was 34, I was 19, so we shouldn't have ever been together. I left him. I am originally from Texas. I ended up moving to North Carolina, and then eventually to South Carolina, to Columbia, South Carolina. And it was there, so I went to the military. I went to the military in January of 2020. I signed up October 2021, and I went to basic training in January of 2022. And I don't remember what year. It might have been when I came back, probably not 2020. Did I say 2022? 2002. I didn't mean 2022. 2002, 2001. I signed up to 2002. I went to the military. I'm not sure when I met my second husband. I did meet him on a chat line. I met him on a phone chat line called Live Links. And we met during a snowstorm, and we talked on the phone for, I don't know, 6-7 hours. And I found that we shared a lot of the same values, especially about Black and Brown community and family. We both very much wanted to get married and have children. We shared a lot of the same values. And well, you know, back then there weren't camera phones and there wasn't the internet, and if there was, but it wasn't as accessible as now. And I did have a phone, a mobile phone, but it wasn't a camera phone. So he came to see me, and there's snow outside, and He's just this really ruggedly handsome man, very chiseled jawline, very broad, dark skinned. He was handsome. He was handsome. The sexual experience was violent, for lack of a better word. He was raised by abusive parents, not abusive to him, or as far as I know, but abusive to each other. He grew up watching his father beat his mother. Before me, the only like love of his life had been a girl that was like in jail by the time that I met him, who enjoyed his, according to his words, or maybe enjoyed or just didn't tell him to stop. When he was very large, his member was very large, and according to him, she liked it like that. I didn't. And so I guess I went to his house once. So we continued to talk because in my mind, I hadn't met a lot of great guys. In my mind, you meet somebody that you're very compatible with, you should try to figure out how to make that work. So I did at some point. It should have, I don't know, red flag, I don't know. He lived with his mom when I met him, and he had never lived on his own. He didn't really know how to live on his own. I guess I was 20, I might have been 22, 23, something like that, having been on my own for almost 10 years. And then he's not quite a year older than me. So he was probably 23 or 24. And why don't you know how to, pay bills? And he was giving his mother his check. She was paying her student loan bills and giving him an allowance out of his check. Living in an overpriced apartment community, gated apartment community. It was really overpriced, living way above her means, because she could live off her son. And it was a very uncomfortable relationship to witness, the mother and the son. It's like she made him her husband. And like I said, he had grown up watching his father beat her. The most tragic event that I can think of, he watched him chase her out of a window of a 2-story house, and she jumped off the top floor to escape him and broke her arm. So he's been raised in this very violent atmosphere. The mother and father are divorced, and now the mother has essentially made him her husband. And he smoked a lot when I met him. He didn't tell me he was on parole. On parole for something that would have made him a sex offender. The story is all very convoluted, but he didn't tell me he was on parole. I didn't know he was on parole until, well, let me back up. So I came to the house, met the mom. She was welcoming enough, kind of odd, but welcoming enough. We spent the night there together, and it was just not good again. He's playing video games and smoking cigarettes in this room, and it's just gross. And the connection, he didn't really want to talk to me. And it just wasn't good. He only wore black, by the way, and subscribes to the nation of gods and earth, and does math and all of this stuff that should have been red flags to me. But I've been on my own since I was 14. I just want to get married and have a family. I had no family. I just wanted to have a family. So I chose to ignore all this stuff. So I was like, no, this is not right. After that time, meeting the mom, spending that day at the house, I was like, this is not right, His mom called me and was like, what's wrong? I was like, is he there? Can I speak to him? I was like, how dare you have your mom? He's like, I didn't have her because she wanted to contact blah, blah. I was like, but you let her. creepy. So initially she's trying to put us together, but then so I don't know. It was all very iffy. I had complained about how I didn't enjoy the sexual experiences, and he stopped touching me altogether. He was very extreme like that. Very, very extreme. All black. Just a very extreme man in general, carrying so much trauma, anger, and so, like I said, I didn't know that he was on parole until he called me and he was like, "Yeah, so I'm going to prison tomorrow." It's like, "What?" So I started talking to him again because his mother called me. I don't know what I was thinking, but so he calls me and says he's going to court because they're going to revoke his parole because he has violated his parole. And I'm like, what in the F? Are you serious? I didn't know you were on parole. And so he was like, I want you to go live with my mom. What a terrible idea. So I did end up going to live with his mom. Really terrible idea. Ended up making an enemy out of her. I was young, very young, all over the place. Ended up making an enemy out of his mom. So then when he finally did come home from prison, and while he was in prison, I mean, he was in prison for a long time, 2 years. We lost our visiting rights because I had my foot between his legs, not like jacking him off or anything. My foot was just on the chair between his legs. And we lost our visiting rights for that for the last year that he was there. So it was a rough time, and I'll admit that I wasn't the best, I don't know, girlfriend or whatever. He proposed to me while he was in prison, and I had several flings while he was away. When he came back, he was angry because his mom had told him about all the stuff, but he still wanted me, and we should have left it at that. But so he came to find me, and I bought him a new wardrobe, and I bought him a car, and I was in school, so I was getting big student loan refund checks, and I had a house for us and all this stuff. And he didn't want to get married. He's going back to live with his mom, going back to pay his mom's student loan bills and all this stuff. I'm like, well, if we're not going to get married, I'm not going to continue this relationship. So he felt like I had forced him into the marriage. He was a grown man. So, I mean, but a grown man with the mind of a child, essentially. So we did end up getting married. His mother's very angry. She wouldn't let him, family was very important to him. All of everybody was very important to him. So he went to go see his mother one day, and she was trash talking me. So trying to defend me, he ends up getting very angry with her and cussing her out. And he came home very, very, very angry about that encounter. We were very happy in the beginning when he first came home, but that didn't last long, maybe a month. If you looked at the pictures, you could see the change in our demeanor. So we had been in an argument, and we hadn't really resolved it. He went to go see his mother, and when he came back, he had this fight with his mother. I have no idea what it was that I said to him, but I remember very clearly people say Superman, he essentially like dived through the air. I was sitting in a computer chair, and he like dived through the air and like tackled me. And it just went on for hours, it felt like. It feels like my mind is trying to protect me from what happened, because I don't really remember the beating and it was drug all over the house, and it was horrific. And he got really drunk and passed out, and I was really thankful for that. And I ended up getting up very early in the morning, and I was substitute teaching. I was in the Army National Guard. I was substitute teaching, and I was going to school online. I was getting my master's degree online. And that's the reason I didn't finish my master's degree, because of all that chaos. So I went to work. He came and found my car. And when I came to the car, there was a bouquet of lilies in the car. And I spoke to him, and he said, I'm still in contact with my old therapist. Let's go see my therapist. And the therapist said, this is a really bad situation, and my recommendation is that you get out. If y'all want to work on this, that you should work on it from separate locations. We were both unwilling to do that. And so the therapist was like, anytime you see signs of escalation, you need to remove yourself from the situation. So it was just constant bickering. There's always, when you hear these stories, you hear about the buildup situations, constant bickering. He always felt emasculated, probably because I was better at managing a home than him. I had wanted to buy a car with my money, and he forced me to take the money back to the people that I had bought the car from because I didn't consult him, because he felt emasculated. So there was lots of fights about stuff like this, how to run the house. He wanted to put the bills on automatic payment. I was just like, what happens if there's no money in there to pay the bill? Then we get overdrawn. But he was a child. He had a child's mind, but he wanted to be treated like a man, and he was very, very angry anytime that I made him feel emasculated. So, bought him the car of his dreams, by the way. So one day he's late coming back from work, and I was quite frustrated about it because I'd been waiting on him. And I could see when he pulled into the driveway, I could just see that crazy look, that glazed look on his face. So I got in my car, and he broke lots of my cell phones. He had broken another cell phone. So I was actually going to Sprint to get a print off of my phone numbers, because back then we didn't have Google Drive and all that stuff, so the numbers weren't saved. So I was going to Sprint just to give us some space. He thought I was leaving him, so he proceeded to destroy our beautiful little house. Everything that he couldn't take, he destroyed. He pulled the ceiling fans out of the ceilings. He knocked holes in the walls. He bent our bed in half. He slashed the sofa. He pulled the posters and pictures off the wall. Tipped over the refrigerator. He put the hairdryer in the toilet. He turned off the electricity and locked the electricity box. The house was just, when I came back to the house, I could see a trail of like food and stuff, because we had been to Sam's Club, and so we had bulk food. I could see like a trail of food, like snacks and stuff in the road as I was pulling up, and I was like, oh no. I couldn't get into the house because he just moved the furniture everywhere, and I called the police, and the police were like, well, we could make a report, but this is his house, so we can't take him to jail for tearing up his stuff. Even though it's in my name, even though I paid for everything, it didn't matter, because once you're married, it's yours, not mine. So again, like I said, I'm the one who has bought this car that he's driving and all this stuff. So I went to go get, and it's in my name. I went to go get the car to his mother's house, and I shouldn't have. I should have just left it alone and moved on. Honestly, I don't know if he would have allowed it at that time, but I went to his mother's house to go get the car. The gate was open. I was able to go in. He was sitting on his mother's porch looking very, very crazy. The keys were in the car, so I just pulled up and took the keys out of the car, and I should have driven off faster. I thought I was safe, though, driving away. He ran after me, and when I tell the story, I always feel like it's like a MacGyver, a show of MacGyver. He ran after the car. My window was down. He grabbed the inside of the window and just held onto the car, and he had on his work boots, and he was actually like skating on the pavement alongside the car until he could reach in, unlock the door, and grab my head and slam my head into the dashboard. And I'm like screaming, honking. It's an apartment complex. I'm screaming, I'm honking, hoping somebody will come outside. So we go around in a circle. He choked me several times. The night that he had abused me. This isn't long after, the night that he had abused me. He had choked me several times until I passed out. And I remember him saying, he was going to rape me, and It was it was horrible. It was horrible. And probably telling the story, I'm probably going to have some nightmares about this tonight. I haven't told the story in a long time. So we come around again. We're almost in front of his mother's apartment, and I am able to kind of some way get him out of the car, and I'm about to drive out of the apartment complex. And he steps in front of me. And so I'm inching the car forward because what is he going to do? It's a car, but I'm inching the car forward. He took 2 strides and ran up, standing up straight on the hood of the car. He looked at me in my face very deliberately, and you could see that he had made a decision. And he laid back with his elbow like this and broke the windshield of the car I was driving. And then rolled off, and he just had this like smirk look on his face. And so I drove away. My best friend had already begged me to call the police on him several times. My best friend was like, if you don't call the police now, I'm going to call the police. So I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive the car. The windshield was broken. So I went to Burger King, called the police. Police went to him first. I don't know if somebody in the apartment complex had called the police or what. So I was at Burger King waiting for the police. By the time the police came to me, he had already told the police his story, and he told the police that I was trying to run him over. The police believed him and not me, which is very, very common in domestic abuse. They can change. They are great actors. And the truth is that they don't feel that they are abusers. If you ask my ex-husband to this point, he will say he was defending himself and I tried to run him over with the car. Very much the same way that John Wayne Bobbitt does. And still to this day would probably take me back 20 years later, and I've had him put in jail twice. Lorena cut off his member, and still to this day, he's like, I think it would be the greatest love story ever if we got back together. And my ex-husband is the same way. So he changes, he gets the police to believe his story. The police come and arrest me and charge me. And now mind you, I'm in the military. And if you have a domestic violence charge, you can no longer carry a weapon. So you have to be discharged from the military. So now he's got me. I'm charged with assault and battery, high aggravated nature. It's a felony. It's a felony. And when I went before the judge while I was in jail, she told me, it really makes me sick to think that people like you are teaching our children. A woman told me that. The only reason she released me was because he came to tell her, to beg for me. So she released me to him. I really wanted to write her a letter to tell her that my blood is on your hands if this man kills me. So I get an attorney, and the attorney says the only way he'll take my case is if my husband signs a letter admitting that I didn't do what they said that I did. And he did in the lawyer's office. But he held that over me and essentially held me prisoner. Anytime I threatened to leave, he was like, well, I'm going to tell him you're lying and you're going to go to jail. And I was essentially a prisoner there in my own house. And so there were more times of abuse than I can remember, honestly. So he was arrested for 2 times. So before the arrest, there's one night where he attacked me. And when he slammed me up into the wall, my phone called me or something, or his phone called me, and you can hear, so in a voicemail, you can hear the fight. You can hear me screaming and begging, and it was horrible. It was horrible to hear. That night, he was so disgusted with himself that he poured 7 Dust, a poison for insects in the yard, in a bottle of champagne and drank it. My best friend was like, let him die. I said, I can't because I have this charge against me. And if he dies, they're going to say I killed him. thank God I had enough forethought, because so my undergraduate degree is in criminal justice, and my master's, I was studying criminal justice. I didn't get that degree, but what I understand, what I know to be fact is women who kill their abusers get way more time than men who kill their spouses. And I knew this to be fact. When the police arrested me, I also knew it to be law that when both parties are alleging abuse, both parties should be taken to jail, but they only took me. They said, oh, because there's proof of what he's saying. They're like, oh, if he choked you, there should be marks on your neck. They don't know anything. So they came and got him, took him to the hospital. I should have left again. I didn't. The next time, so we were arguing in the car about something. I don't remember what it was. Who knows? There's always something. He pulled into a parking lot. He slammed my face into the dashboard again. And I was about to get out. I did end up getting out. And I was about to, again, car's in my name. I'm about to run away from him. And he, in the parking lot, runs around in a circle to pick up speed and slams my car into a light pole so that I don't have this car. I ran into a store, and we lived on the kind of side of town where there are often cops, police officers in the store. And like I said, I studied criminal justice, and somebody that I actually went to school with was in the store. And I told him what was going on, and interestingly enough, not normal for my ex-husband, he was still so pumped full of adrenaline that he couldn't calm down normally he calms down and becomes very charismatic for the police, but he couldn't do it this time. And he was actually still trying to get at me while the policeman was there. So the policeman ended up taking him to jail. I ended up leaving then. I went to a women and children's shelter for a while. Ultimately, that wasn't going to work out. So I ultimately ended up living in a extended stay for a while, extended stay hotel. We ended up, so again, we still got this charge, even though he's gone to jail for this, I still got this charge over my head, and he's still holding this against me. And so still acts of violence going on. One night, he's there in the extended stay, and who knows what we were fighting about. And I don't remember what it was that happened, but he grabbed me like this. He had very big hands, and he ended up grabbing me like this, and I had like a handprint on my face where he'd grabbed me. So I didn't have to call the police. The people in the extended stay called the police, and he went to jail again. The first time, what's the second time? I don't know, but only one of the charges stuck, because I think the second time he was going to prison. He was going to go to prison, and he had asked me to come speak for him. And I told him, if I come speak for you, I need for you to not show up to my trial. I don't need you to come speak. I just need you to not show up for my trial. And so I went and spoke on his behalf, but he still does have a domestic violence charge. And I know he ended up holding that against me because he couldn't go to the military. And he says, my fault, of course. It's all my fault. In his mind, it was all my fault. And he just fit all the patterns. He was just handsome, charismatic. Everybody believed him. His mother believed all that all of it, of course, is me, because I was evil and I was bringing all of the stuff on myself. I was by no means perfect. I was carrying a lot of trauma, and I'm sure my trauma activated his trauma, but it's still no excuse for the way that he abused me. So with my trial finally out of the way, I was free. What put me in prison again was going to the church. So in the Christian system, there is no justification for divorce other than adultery. And that I knew of, he had never adulterated. So I had no justification, according to the Christian church, to leave this man. And I was very engulfed in the church. I actually went to seminary. I was very engulfed in church at the time. Now, no one in the church specifically said to me, but in our studying, this was what was brought up. So I had an opportunity to take him back again. I had a nice little, really beautiful apartment. I had a cute little rabbit. And I ended up getting a really great job quite a ways away, and ended up getting a house as a compromise that was kind of in between his job and my job. And he was accusing me of things. Who knows how he heard about the things. Accusing me of things, and he was getting crazy again. I could see he was getting crazy again. He hadn't done anything physically to me, but he was just, messages he was sending were very, because again, he knew that he could lose me because he didn't have control over me anymore. Oh, let me back up. No. Yeah. So he actually, at some point, I'd left him and gone to live with a girl. And he actually reported me to the inspector general, because I was in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So he had actually reported me to the inspector general, trying to get me put out of the military so that I didn't have a support system. And men often do select women who have no real support system. And the military was the only support that I had. And the military served me with intent to separate papers because of him. And so that had happened before. So now I have my little house. I have a really amazing job in the military. And he's sending me these crazy messages. I told him, please get all of your stuff out of my house. I don't want to see you when I get there. I had 2 soldiers come with me to the house, and I changed the locks on the house. And I guess that was I saw him like maybe 1 or 2 more times in moments of weakness, because we really do love these men up to a certain point. Saw him once or twice, but then didn't really see him again until I needed to get the divorce papers signed. So I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky that I was able to escape. I was very lucky that I had a support system in the military. I was very lucky that he never cut me, never beat me with anything, that I never got raped that I can remember. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, and lots of women aren't. The way the criminal justice system treated me was just horrific and unexcusable. And thank goodness for a little Black judge who had faith in me. Thank goodness for the Black police officer that had faith in me. Thank God for them, because it was a white judge who turned me over to this abuser, to this monster. I just want to say that if you have a friend or a family member who's being abused, all you can do is support them. Please don't leave them. They need your support, because what that person is trying to do is cut them off from everyone. And I know it's painful. It hurt my best friend. I stopped talking to my best friend because my ex was threatened by him. And it hurt him very deeply. We need you. Why can't you just leave? Well, like I said, I was kind of imprisoned, and I thought that I was better with him. I loved him. And that's just all there is to it. And you don't know what you would do until you're in that situation. You just don't. You don't know what you would do until you're in that situation. You have to find a way to find a way, especially if there's children involved. You can do it. You have to find a way to find a way. If you love somebody who's in that situation, don't give up on them. Just let them know that you're there for them. Be mindful that your interference could make it worse for them. Just let them know silently that you're there to support them, and when and if they're ready to leave. Something needs to be done. Seriously, I don't miss the United States at all. I feel much safer here in Mexico, but still, men still make me very, very uncomfortable. And I probably will never be in not in another traditional relationship, that's for sure. Maybe never in another relationship with a man, to be honest. But nonetheless, I wanted to share my chaotic story. I didn't realize how much of it I don't remember until I start trying to tell it. And I'm sure that that's my system trying to protect me from the trauma. I didn't realize how much I don't remember, but you're not alone. It's not you. You're not crazy. The system is broken. Men are broken. Women are broken, and we need to find a way to mend this. It's not going to get better on its own. So I just wanted to share that and get it out of my system so that it doesn't haunt me in my dreams. After watching that documentary, it was powerful. So yeah, I want to send you love, light, peace, and joy. Really, you can get out. Please find a way to get out. And until next time, I'm Kamina the coach. Peace.